It's in the name.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast. Today, it might get a little crazy, kind of shooting from the hip, if you can say that anymore. Who knows? Going to ask Ben some questions, maybe a lightning round here or there. We might just get off topic. Who knows? But the only way you're going to find out is to keep on listening right after these important messages. This episode of the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast is presented by Faulkner University. Faulkner University is a private Christian liberal arts university based in Montgomery, Alabama, with a mission to provide an education anchored by not only intellect, but also character and service. The Faulkner experience aims to educate the whole person. Every individual matters every day. We all want to become better versions of ourselves. No one wants to remain trapped where they are because of missed opportunities and unrealized dreams. At Faulkner University, we believe your dreams don't have an expiration date. We understand that you're looking for more than a degree. You want to find your niche and thrive in your career. Whether you're a high school senior just beginning your trek or an adult student looking for a better path, Faulkner is here to help guide your journey. Go to faulkner.edu to apply or get more info. That's faulkner.edu. I'm Travis Creasy. That's all-pro counselor with 3-Chord Counseling in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Benjamin Hayes, rocking the free world by his lonesome, as you have shipped many of your people off to Africa. So you doing all right?
I sent 2 of them off, and then our youth minister and his wife and my daughter's boyfriend, who stays over here a lot, watching TV and stuff. So I feel like I've sent a bunch of them off, and then sent my kids to grandparents' house, the other kids. So I'm all by myself, sitting here podcasting with you, and kind of being a little on anxious end of the fact that my daughter and wife are on like a 15-hour flight right now. So, but by the time you hear this, they should be in Zimbabwe, Lord willing, safe and sound, and doing some work over there. And we'll probably be at camp.
Camp Maywood. Bow, 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 bow.
Yeah. So
we'll be fired up. That may be the most tired bow, 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 bow ever.
Because you've been doing football, right?
I have been doing football workouts. I'm just sitting here thinking about how we get to do football workouts, and our friends down in Haiti, right? Liberté Ministries and TravisLovesHaiti.com. We're still rocking, trying to find 12 churches for 12 weeks. If you have a church group or you just like to support the missions in Haiti, you can get in contact with us. We'll get you in contact. You can go to TravisLovesHaiti.com. You also donate a Bible in the Haitian language, and we're going to match the first $100 donated. So a $5 donation gets a Bible. We're going to match that for the first $100. But as we kind of, like I said, we aren't at camp as we record this, but as this comes out, we'll be at Camp Maywood, and things get a little loopy at Maywood, especially the later at night it is, and I'm sure we'll have a couple of interviews with people. And so we're going to kind of just roll with the punches in some things that maybe we want to talk about. Maybe I've got a question or two. Maybe I'll let Ben know ahead of time. Maybe I didn't.
Maybe I have a question for you. Huh?
And you may have a question for me. It may get crazy up in here. So just latch on to whatever you're doing. Maybe it's the steering wheel. If you're driving your car, please keep both hands on the wheel. Hopefully we don't shock you too much. But Ben, if I was a wife, which I'm not, and I had a husband, which I actually am one of those, and I was trying to get said husband to open up, to share a thought or maybe how they're doing. Do you have an approach to that, right? Because we, as we mentioned, even over the last few weeks, we tend to be fairly buttoned up about things. And I think, just speaking from myself, I don't know really what I am thinking a lot of times or what I'm feeling because I refuse to go there. So I think that one of the reasons is maybe we haven't necessarily thought about why we, maybe my face is resting a certain way or my body language is giving an unapproachable a stature.
That's a really tough one because I think it's something that a lot of people deal with. I have a lot of people who come in for marriage counseling, and sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes the guy is wanting the wife to open up a little bit. That's generally not the case. Usually it's the other way around, but it can
Can't get her to be
happen.
quiet.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's kind of tough, and I don't know that there's one set answer for that. I think being willing to listen without judging, being willing to listen without replying. You know, what you and I do is if we're listening to someone, we're listening to sarcastically reply to them, right? I mean, that's generally
I
what we
feel so
do with each
seen.
other.
I feel
I
so seen.
know. That's generally what we do. And so a lot of times people are listening to reply. You know, okay, I gotta figure out how I'm gonna come back at this. And so I think a lot of guys are like, hey, I'm just gonna get caught in a trap here if I say what my
Caught in
feelings
a
are.
trap.
Yes, they're gonna feel like there's suspicious minds there and they don't know what to do about it. And so I think sometimes it's like, hey, if I open that up, number one, I'm kind of vulnerable and not sure how I feel about that, kind of what you were referencing. Number two, I think if they do open up, then they're going to feel like they may get attacked or it may be seen differently. I know there's been even times where I'm thinking, okay, if I say what I'm really thinking, then we're going to get in an argument or it's going to be a fight. And then we got a long night on our hands. And so, if it's 9 or 10 or 11 o'clock at night, that's not really the time to open up those cans of worms. It's a lot of times, I think we do it at the wrong time. People say, well, I don't want to let the sun go down on my anger. It went down a long time ago. So just let it go that night, pick it up another time. You're tired. You're probably not going to get through or get very much accomplished. And so I think that's the hard thing is catching them at the right time, making sure that you're listening, whoever, whether this is guys or girls. And maybe even you mentioned something about teenagers, the same thing with them. Making sure that you catch them at the right time, making sure that you're listening to hear and not just listening to judge them, sarcastically reply to them, try to fix things with WD-40 and duct tape like we do as guys a lot of times. And so if it's perceived that that's what's going to happen, that any of those things are going to happen, I think that's where we close up and that's where we shut down. I don't want to get into that. So listen to hear. And if you can establish that you are there to hear people, then a lot of times they'll come open up. A lot of people won't open up to their parents or their spouses or whatever. And then they'll come into counseling session and, spill the beans. I mean, they'll talk about all kinds of stuff. And I think the only thing I've figured out, sometimes I know you've got, it's uncomfortable to talk to your parents or somebody about it. But a lot of times it's because they don't feel like they've got somebody who'll listen. So finding that ability within you to keep your mouth shut long enough to hear. And then when you do respond, the way you respond is going to determine whether they come to you again. So the way that you respond, if you respond in a negative, argumentative way, then they're probably not going to open up the next time. And so allowing them to express without judgment is a big deal.
Well, as I've gotten older, I will preface things sometimes when I open up to Whitney or whoever, and I'll say, I know this is wrong-headed thinking. I know this isn't right, but I need to hear how dumb it sounds coming out of my mouth. And so when I do that, what I'm saying is I don't need all the reasons why what I'm thinking is wrong. I've already figured that out. And so I just need you to go, oh, yeah, okay. It's kind of like what I need clarification. Like, is this one of the things I need WD-40 and duct tape? Or do you just want me to listen? Because
that's right.
I need that clear. And sometimes I'll ask that question, like, is this a listening thing or is this a listen to find an answer and a solution thing? And
just clarify it at the beginning. That helps.
Yeah. It's kind of like one of those emails where you're like, hey, I need to meet with you today.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's great. Fun. Could you tell me about what? So that I want.
Yeah, I'd like a little input on it.
Worst case scenario here. Worst case.
Yes.
Hey folks, on August 24th, join us at the Marriott Shoals Conference Center for the 2024 Heritage event, sponsored by Heritage Christian University. This year, we're proud to have Ricky Skaggs and Kentucky Thunder headlining. Experience an incredible evening of bluegrass music while supporting a great cause. All proceeds are used to prepare students for thriving ministries worldwide. Secure your tickets at hcu.edu today, and I'll see you there. Off the top rope, if you could be any professional wrestler, who would you be?
That really is way off the top rope. Personally, because I'm not, I'm not as much of a wrestling fan as you are. So I've got kind of a small window to choose from. There's some really good ones though. I was always I'm not a fan of everything he does. Well, this would go for all wrestlers, right? We don't have to preface that we're not going to.
Oh, yeah. Wrestlers are messed up human beings, just like the rest of us. It's just on TV. And so, no, we're not supporting anyone's shortcomings for sure.
Purely from just some of the wrestling standpoint and some of the showmanship, probably it would come down to The Rock or Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Just because I like The Rock in just about anything he's in. And now I love to watch his movies. It doesn't really matter what he's in. I've pretty much liked all of them, especially when he's with Kevin Hart. There's not a funnier duo, I don't think, out there. Now, again, I'm not saying watch those movies, but even just clips I've seen and just them outside of movies, just interacting with each other is usually pretty funny. Stone Cold, just the stunner is probably the best there is, and I love that. I love to watch that. But, I don't want to take all yours, but there's others out there that, there's elements of them I like. But those are the two guys that probably, if I could choose one, and I don't know, I figure yours is at least one of those is the same. I have a feeling that maybe there's one I almost said that I didn't that you might, but who would be yours?
So obviously, and once again, it's probably a little embarrassing to admit, but Stone Cold, there was an era there in the late 90s where he was must watch TV, and every once in a while I'll go back and get a clip or two. Man, I will say, man, it's tough. It's tough because you've got your Mount Rushmore, and probably one that is not one anyone's thinking is Booker T, the Spinaroonie.
I forgot you.
It's just, man, I would love to be able to do the Spinaroonie right now, just out there on the football practice field, and all of a sudden, Coach Creasy Spinaroonieing. But give me the stinger, the face paint. That was really awesome. And my styles change, but man, those are definitely some. I don't know, Ben, did I hit the one you said that I thought I might mention?
I was thinking of Ultimate Warrior.
Oh yeah,
I thought that one would be your go-to guy.
Ultimate Warrior's great because go watch some of his promos and you have no idea,
so random.
The cockpit, the Hulkamania plane where he rips the cockpit off the door, off the hinges. I mean, it just goes off the rails. And as a little kid, you're like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. This is like the embodiment of Mountain Dew right here.
Yes.
But as an adult, you go back and watch, and you're like, what in the world? That made zero sense. But anyways, yeah, Ultimate Warrior's up there. You got any for me, Ben, or do you want me to just keep rolling with the nonsense?
Yeah, I had one that came to mind, and then this one's not a serious question. I'll probably have some serious questions in a minute. But the other one I was going to ask you is, and we probably have asked this before, but I'm going to go real specific with it. If there's any one Alabama game that you could have been at, which Alabama game was? And I'm not going to limit it to just football, but that was what I had in mind at first. But it could be any of them. So which Alabama game would you be at?
Well, there are a lot of people out there and I think we may be heading back this direction a little bit more because who can be Nick Saban, right? I mean, DeBoer, I think he's going to have a lot of success, but no one is Nick Saban level. And so I was never the one that was bored with the blowouts. Like, I like the ones where, oh, this is done. Now we get to celebrate for 2 quarters and a half and watch, the nail biters I'm not there for. But this may shock some people. Just off the top of my head, I think the 92 national championship, if you and I could have been in the Sugar Bowl that night,
as 12 and 11-year-olds or
I get
whatever.
excited now, but yeah, as 11 and 12-year-old kids and how much we loved Alabama before any of the success. I mean, we'd been through some rough years already. I just think we would have never, we would have just, it'd been head exploding excitement, right? Just, yeah. So 92 Bama. What about you?
I'd have a hard time beating that one now that you bring it up. I guess I was thinking of kind of epic moments like, the Van Tiffin's kick. That would have probably been pretty epic back in the day just to have been there to watch him beat Auburn that year. But I'll probably go with you on that after you've said it. I would love to have been there I remember we went to a lot of ball games. We went to a lot of football games when we were kids with our uncle and with my dad. I mean, I went to several, but the one I remember like more details about, I don't really even remember the game. Isn't that kind of interesting how you go? I don't always remember the games. I remember the people. I remember the ride. I remember the, camaraderie more than I remember anything else.
Yeah.
And I went with Dad to an Alabama-Auburn game. It's the only Alabama-Auburn game I've ever been to. And I think we paid $15 a piece to get in. So that tells you how long ago it's been. Crazy. And I think it was at Legion Field because it wasn't at Auburn. And back then it wasn't at Alabama. So I think it must have been at Legion Field. And, it was cool just to have been there. I don't remember anything about like what the outcome or anything was. It's kind of like the game we went to last year with you. I mean, I remember some of it, but I remember more hanging out with you guys and being up in the stands than I remember the details of the game. So, but it was.
I remember a bad snap that Jalen Milroe picked up and scored on.
Yeah, that's right.
To bring up painful memories.
Yes.
I was in the house. I was at Bryant Denny when Johnny Manziel pickled the beast. That actually was the most fun college football game I've ever been at, even though we lost. But yeah,
I think the craziest one I've been at was I was at Bryant Denny before they built the extra layer on the guest side. I guess it would be, they hadn't taken it up another level yet to make the full dome, and so you could see Denny chimes from where I was sitting. And I remember watching, it was a lightning storm. I was there with my brother, and some of the Ole Miss, I remember we were playing Ole Miss, they had on the headsets, and it'll like electrocuted the lightning.
Yeah, I remember y'all being at that game.
Yeah, and it kind of electrocuted them. They were like throwing those headsets off of them. But I watched, and I wish there was a picture of this somewhere. One day I might paint it because I can see some of it in my mind. But I watched a lightning bolt either hit Denny chimes or it struck right behind it, and it just split as it got to the point of Denny chimes. So there's a lightning bolt coming down, and right at the point of Denny chimes, it just fans out. And I remember in my mind seeing that and going, that was incredible. Now let's go inside. So, we went down in the concourse and got out of harm's way. But that was a pretty cool moment, probably one of the coolest moments at a Alabama game that I've been at. So had nothing to do with the game, but anyway,
it's pretty cool.
So, Travis, what is the most difficult and most rewarding thing about coaching? You've had a lot of years of experience.
Yeah, the most difficult thing is finding the right balance, right? You don't want to crush anybody's spirit, but you also want to push them. That's one of the hard parts. Like I think you and I coached intramural girls football, at Fred Hardeman, and I pretty much swore off coaching girls anything ever again. We had girls running on, subbing themselves in and out, doing whatever. And I think a lot of times with the guys, you might have an alpha male here and there, but generally speaking, they're not very assertive. And so you almost have to like challenge them. But things have changed so much, right? I mean, when I was playing, my coach would come in and throw the cooler across the room and yell and scream at us and pull the homecoming decorations down that I was surprised he let them put up in the field house to begin with. And we wanted to go out there and rip the heads off of every person in an opposite uniform. And now, if you did that, they would, think that you're really mad at them and you hate them, and they would play worse. And so, I've really had to shift into a almost cheerleader role. A positive. It's not that it's wrong; it's just such a different shift. And so I guess finding the right balance when there's so many different people talking to them. Like I can't even imagine coaching these college kids who, you now have an agent, you have Uncle Jim Bob over there saying you need more money or whatever. And so, it's just a difficult balance to keep the kid encouraged, but also, balance all the other stuff they're being told. You're a freshman and you're not starting. That's the worst thing possible. Well, not really. I mean, I guess the idea.
What got Saban?
I'm sorry.
Seems what got Saban out. Like
it's so difficult, especially for a guy who's more like a CEO. Nick Saban's like a CEO. They're going to hear one voice, and that's it. And this day and age with social media, there's 1,000 voices, and so I guess kind of struggling. Going back to the questions I ask you is, what voices are you listening to? What voices can you trust? Which ones are pushing you? And a lot of times the ones that are the loud, like the ones who are being assertive with you may be the best ones. It doesn't mean always, but a lot of them. And so the assertive ones sound like they're mad and mean and hate you. And not really, right? The ones that are being assertive see the best in you and want the best for you, and the ones who are being super kind, and so and that's just life. Which voices am I supposed to listen to? And I guess the most rewarding one is, when players come back. I've got 2 guys on staff this year that I've coached, and they wanted to come back. Like the desire of their heart was to come back. Another one I messaged today. I was like, "Hey, you're working a business. Would y'all mind sponsoring the program?" Yeah, no problem. I got you. We got it covered. For people that want to come back, because a lot of times I'll ask assistants, are these guys ever going to realize what all we do? Same thing for our parents, right? We ever going to realize? Well, I realize now what my parents did, and my mom, for a large part, on her own. And it feels like she ran circles around me and Whitney together combined. And so it's just like, man, I don't even know what kind of tired that is. So I guess that's the rewarding thing. When they want to come back, they like hanging out. They, fist bump. They want to come Friday night and watch, be on the sideline, or that's pretty rewarding stuff.
Hey, parents and young adventurers, are you ready to embark on an extraordinary journey? Introducing The Adventures of Ben and Travis and the Worry Coaster, a thrilling ride through the ups and downs of mental health in our new children's book. Join our dynamic duo as they navigate the twists and turns of their emotions while discovering the courage to conquer their worries. Pre-order your ticket to adventure now at benandtravis.com/books and be among the first to embark on this roller coaster of resilience. Let's turn worry into wonder and empower kids to embrace their feelings with bravery and hope. Buckle up. It's going to be an unforgettable ride.
We're going to draft Americans, right? We're drafting Americans, not into Vietnam or anything, but we're drafting a team of the greatest Americans of all time. I can hear now, right? The Christian nationalists, what a bunch of idiots. Blah, 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 blah. No one cares, okay? Can you be a Christian nationalist and also distrust the government beyond all measure? Anyway, there's my hot take. But you're drafting Americans, right? And George Washington's off the board. I've already seen where you're going, because I would have went there too. You got the first pick. I guess you got the second pick. I got the third pick. Who you going with?
We're just drafting them for what?
You're
I just need to
creating a
know.
team of super Americans. Like you're starting this thing over. Who you picking?
We're just starting it over.
Yeah,
Anytime, any time
any era.
frame.
Yeah,
Whoosh, dude, that takes a whole lot more time for me to think
right off the
about it.
top
I
of your head,
mean,
bro. Like I mean, and it could be funny. It could be
the
like,
Ultimate Warrior. No.
yeah, I know. I'm saying.
Any time frame, anybody that you could pick to be that guy, man. This is a
My
hot take
girl.
that probably, I mean, anything we say and do could be used against us in a court of
Absolutely.
law at this
Once
point.
again, we're not saying these are perfect people by any
No,
means.
no, no,
We're
yeah,
just saying if we needed some mojo, some energy to get this thing going, we felt like, hey, this is a person that it would be in good hands,
fantastic Americans.
for whatever reason.
Um, I'm just trying to think. Like, there's so many that I could say that are good. I'd have a hard time not digging back into the time frame and grabbing Ronald Reagan.
There you
If
go.
I'm just talking about leaders that we could get. And I know we'll get some hate on that too, but I mean, I think by and large he seemed to have been pretty good. Of course, I was a kid, so if there was a lot of bad things, then I don't really know, but just everything I've seen and
I mean,
understood,
he was
I think.
president, right? I mean,
I mean, he was at
all of them
least
have bad
president, so at least
things. They all have bad things.
they all got bad things. But I mean, I guess that would be one that I would get. I'm trying to dig. I know there's better. I know there's more. I'm just trying to think of them. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think back to the story. He had been the assassination attempt, and a balloon busted, and like
Yes.
everybody else flinches, he didn't, and he goes, "Ha, miss me," and I'm like, "What?" He
Fantastic.
got some mean one-liners for sure. Mean one-liners. I let's see, who am I going to roll with? And both of us have pretty extensive backgrounds in history. I did get my degree in history. Did you double major?
I never actually got a degree, but I was like really close to a minor.
Yeah, so I did what we flipped, right? You got the Bible, I got the history, and we both
Yeah.
got real close to getting the other. But that is tough. I think it's difficult. I don't know, and I'm with you. I think we deify a lot of people. George Washington had wooden teeth, was really tall, but he's off the board. So if you're building a football team, he might be a good one. But I don't know. I think John Adams is quite a bit underrated. I don't know that I would take him third overall though. I don't know.
Ooh, yeah.
Benjamin Franklin has a lot of American spirit, but he had a lot of spirit of a lot of things. So I don't know that I'm going there either. So it's kind of a difficult situation.
I like the spirits.
I know if somebody out there's yelling at us right now, Abraham Lincoln, and Abraham Lincoln, in my mind, it's not been kind to him over the last few years for me. Like there's been he's definitely one we deify, and that's not his fault. We just do that with anybody who has the success that he had, if you call it that. I better clarify that. I'll be in trouble. Uh, he had tremendous success in keeping the country together, and of course a mighty hand in freeing the slaves as well. So definitely, I don't want to take away from
No.
that. So, but it is a hard question. It is a hard question.
I,
I'm probably going to go. Let's just go, man. I want to pick somebody. Give me any of those dudes that stormed D-Day. I'll take any of those Americans for sure.
yep.
I'm drafting one. I may have to go Thomas Jefferson. I may just have to pull that trigger. So
Okay.
Thomas.
I'm bouncing back and forth because I've been listening to a pod on D-Day. That's kind of every week. It's another little tidbit of it, and I realized. I should have known. I guess I did know it. I just kind of have forgotten that Eisenhower was the one who really made that call. Like he's the guy in charge of D-Day, and that made me go, "Wow, that's incredible." That Ike was he wasn't the president. He was just the one. He was the military genius, that was kind of there with it. One of them. So, that was pretty good. So I would take any of the guys who stormed it. Obviously, like you said, maybe all those guys if we could just pick them all. Because what bravery did that take?
I'll say this: any of the guys we've mentioned, I don't want to trade with them. I'm glad that they have the glory, and I don't. So I'd gladly let them keep it.
I was going to say Teddy Roosevelt, though. Like Teddy Roosevelt was kind of a bad mamma jamma. He seemed like.
Yeah, make sure you get the right Roosevelt, because the other one. Yeah. Once again, all these guys, bumps and bruises.
Had his moments for sure, but
absolutely. Absolutely.
But I'm just thinking toughness. Because I don't know what we're drafting them for. If I'm going to war with somebody, I'm thinking Teddy Roosevelt will be up there with me. He was a tough guy. If we're building a country, I'm not sure that he's that bad of a pick either, because he did some pretty good things. Obviously some things I like with the national parks and some of those sorts of things. He was kind of a big deal with that. So, there's some cool stuff that they did. So I'd probably take him. If we're just talking about people we know, I'd probably build it with some guys like Lonnie Jones and Jack Zorn. If I'm picking guys, those are some that the world doesn't know, but we know. And I'm like, they could change things. So I could go with
absolutely. That. Absolutely. Nick Saban's out there too. So, definitely an American.
And everybody it's not an Alabama fan, just cut it off.
Yeah. They're all happy. They would love to see him do anything but coach football again.
That's true.
Unless it was for their team. They all want him. He's ours, America. He's ours. Let's see, Ben. Underrated. Let's say this aspect of the Bible that you wish you understood better or knew more about. And unless you got an answer off the top of your head, I got mine.
Go ahead with yours. I've got a couple. I'm trying to limit it down to which one. So go ahead.
You're probably going to guess this, and Will's sitting there if he's listening. He's not. But it's the Holy Spirit, right? Like, the more I know, the less I know about it. And to some degree, our background does not spend a whole lot of time on it, because I think there's a fear of getting it wrong. And I get that. The blasphemy of the Holy Spirit is kind of a terrifying thing. And you're like, well, if we just don't talk about it, then we'll never really trip over that thing. And, I think understanding that better. And I've had a couple of sermons. Like, I love Matthew 11. At the end of Matthew 11, Jesus talks about how his yoke is easy, his burden is light. And he's kind of talking about his doctrine. Like, it's not that it's not demanding, but the Holy Spirit, God, is going to empower you to have success in that. And then Matthew 12, he goes in and just lays down some of the hardest teachings. And it's like, but we got to remember, Matthew put that there at the end of Matthew 11, like 12 is difficult. But in 11, he said,
but compared to what you have to deal with in the world, my yoke is light.
Yes.
And so you can choose this
for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd go to probably encapsulate a lot of what I'm thinking. I'd go prophecy. There are elements of Old Testament prophecy that still baffle me a little bit. I get it. I've done a lot more study in that. Probably was one of my lesser comfortable places, but over the last couple of years, I've done a little bit more teaching out of the prophets. But that would also encapsulate Revelation a little bit. And so Revelation sometimes can be a little funky and difficult. And so I think putting both of those together, I'd say just completely getting a grasp. And somebody listening is going to go, well, we know what Revelation means and we know what the others. And I believe we do. but I think there's some elements of what it was like living back in that day to understanding it a little bit better. Maybe not. Maybe they didn't understand it either. Maybe that was why they struggled so much. But I have a feeling there's at least some element of they just understood that language. You know, when we hear it, sometimes we go, well, it says the day of the Lord, like for 100 different things. You know, well, we understand that anytime there was something massive going on, you know, some big day that was happening, that was the day of the Lord. You know, they would have called D-Day the day of the Lord in some ways. And I'm not making that a religious thing. I'm just saying, you know, it was a major event.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. I mean, so it was a major event in the world, and that's kind of how, you know, the day of the Lord was. But there's a lot of other, you know, things similar to that you kind of go, whew, it's just hard to completely grasp. Is he talking about Jesus, or is he talking about things that were going to happen in that day? Or is he talking about Jesus and things that were going to happen in their day? And it's just, you know, it's a veiled prophecy of both their time and in the future, you know. So it's just, I guess if I just could know a little bit more, that would be the one that, hey, give me some more wisdom in that area, probably.
Yeah, it sounds like in the Bible and all the spiritual Christian things it's like what he says at the end of Home Alone, you know, are you ready to give up? Or are you thirsty for more? And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm thirsty for more. And the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know hardly anything. And people let me get up in front of them and share my ignorance to some degree. And I think at some level, it's built to be that way. If you really get it, you don't. Is that weird? Sorry. That was very confusing.
So I got one for you.
All right.
So as we kind of talk about, this month is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, right? And so we've asked a couple of questions about that. Let me just ask you, what are some things that you do and maybe some advice or tips for other guys out there that kind of helps your mental health? I know you asked the question about how do you get guys to open up? So kind of aside from that topic, what are some things that kind of tend to help you with your mental health, Travis?
Mowing the grass. First of all, let me say having a riding lawnmower and cutting the grass. Listen to podcasts some, but here recently I've kind of gotten back into old music. I found a big book of burned discs, you know, and so I've been popping them in there and listening and, you know, just kind of shutting down, and it may just be noise in the background while I cut the lawn, but I'm really trying to get back into music because it does affect my emotions, and it's good to dance around and have a good time. You know, I play video games. I don't play them a lot because I feel like to some degree they're a large waste of time, but I think I mentioned on the last podcast, I got this baseball game and I got you guys all made up on it and several other people. And so, you know, I jump on there and play. And, but a lot of times, I think a lot of men would agree, you know, it's almost like there's a level of our brain that we can kind of shut off and almost goes into, you know, what am I looking for? Autopilot. Mm-hmm. And so it's just something that doesn't take a lot of thought, doesn't take a lot of brain power. And so you kind of rest your mind in it. And of course, that all starts with me with confidence in God, in this supreme being, you know, that if I don't get it all done today, that it's not really going to rock or change who's sitting on the throne. In fact, it's not going to change that at all. But yeah, there are several things. I like to read. I don't do enough of it. You know, the 10 pages a day of something that kind of challenges you. And boy, howdy, have I been reading How the Spirit Still Surprises Me by, I think it's Jack Deere. Wow. I started to say John Deere, but it is a green book, I think, but Jack Deere. And boy, has it pushed me around a little bit and challenged some of the things I believe. But I like thinking about stuff like that. And, you know, the things we just talked about, you know, you know, you're awful quiet. What are you thinking about? Oh, just these deep spiritual things, you know, most of my sermons are written on the lawnmower. But
Yeah, there you go.
what about you?
I like it. Real similar type stuff. I think when I just really need some time to myself, or just something to kind of get away, I like to escape occasionally. I mean, of course, when I can, hunting or fishing, that's been a little bit fewer and farther between here recently. Just not as much time to go do that. I play video game. I don't play many video games. I play one video game, and it's on my phone. And I know it's going to sound bad because I know it gets a lot of hate from different people. But I play Call of Duty on my phone, and I know it's not real. I know I would not do well in war. I appreciate the men who do, but I'm pretty decent at that. And I just enjoy getting on there, and it, like, I don't see it as something real. I just enjoy kind of getting on and running around on there and kind of losing myself for 5 or 10 minutes at a time. The games are just a few minutes long, and then I might play 2 or 3 of them, or might not. So that's one. I like to listen, especially when I drive. I try to put on some of the different podcasts that I listen to. And most of the ones I listen to, shockingly, are going to be very much centered around outdoor stuff. I like real survival stories. It's always about hiking or kayaking or hunting or caving or something that, like, I guess in my mind, I get to go on the adventure with them, even though their adventure really stinks at some point in it. And I like, you put me on years ago to Short History of. I listen to that one pretty religiously. And this new D-Day one is pretty phenomenal. I think it's only for a short time, but it's because of the 80th anniversary. I think that's right. 80th. Yeah. And so those are the things I kind of lose myself in if I get a chance to, just to sort of enjoy. I don't watch a lot of TV. Occasionally I watch movies with the kids, but usually even that turns into a crazy moment because all the kids are trying to watch one show. It takes us 30 minutes to figure out what we're going to watch. So I think those are the things I do most of the time, just to sort of get away for a little while.
All right, Ben. This has turned in the jumbo package. We're rolling. They're going to get their money's worth this week. But I need a bucket list item. I need something that has to happen. Like, not necessarily that I'd like for this has to happen. Like, this got to happen, and I'm going to do my best to make it happen, right? Of course, coupled with, the Lord wills, this is what we're going to do. And I got 2, and you probably could guess them because we're that close, and they kind of go hand in hand. I want to go to a game in the Rose Bowl, or and I'd really like to do both, a national championship game. And it's going to be in Atlanta this year in the Mercedes-Benz, which means Georgia will probably make it. But yeah, I'd like to do those 2. And I'll throw in a third. I want to own a Mustang so bad. And I really do. And it's really, I don't want to be, I feel like I'm being selfish, but it doesn't have to be brand new. Like a 2005 or older, or newer, 2005 or newer. I don't really like the ones that were popular when we were in high school, too curvy,
Yeah.
But I like the kind of, not the boxy of the 80s, boxy ones, but like the 2005, the 60s, that's out of the question. And probably anything post 2010. But yeah, those are 3 of mine.
Yeah.
You can just give me one or multiples.
Well, I mean, if I had one that was like, this is what I want, that I probably won't get, is I'd love to own like a farm, or just a place out on a farm. Like, I don't know that I would necessarily farm, but I'd like to be out.
Ben needs less noise, and Travis is like, I need all the noise.
No, I need less. I just want to be out in the woods somewhere, in the woods, or pasture land or whatever. Just, I want to farm at some point. So if anybody's just got writing up their will or something, and they're like, hey, we need somebody to give this to, here I am. But Probably not going to happen. That's just one of those, like, would be nice at some point. But I would really, really like, if we're talking sporting events, I won't piggyback on yours, even though both of yours were great. I would love to do both of those. I think it would be great to go to a World Series game that the Braves are in. I passed on my opportunity to do that the last time, and I probably shouldn't have. But that would be great. I would like to take my wife to Hawaii or Alaska cruise, one or the other. I feel like she would go to Hawaii before she would go on an Alaska cruise. I would like to go on an Alaska cruise. She would like to go to Hawaii, probably, if I had to guess. And I can name a bunch more. Like, I would love to go hunting elk, and I would love to go on a hunting trip for moose in Alaska. And I'd probably go just about anywhere that you said, here's a hunting trip. I would probably take it. But that would probably be on all of those, all of those things. I just gave you a bunch of them. So
Nice. So if anybody's out there and they've been wanting to get Ben or Travis something, there you go. If you can pull those strings, that would be phenomenal. That'd be great.
It would be pretty great. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. What am I? Here's the deal, right? So as this comes out, it is the day after. So the 24th of June is John the Baptist Day to all of our, I think, Catholic friends. Okay. So we'll play along. It is, I think, the longest day of the year. Summer solstice as well. And we get it at Camp Maywood, of course.
We get it at camp. Thank you.
So if we're going, like, what is your John the Baptist story? Like, what do you, I say John the Baptist, is there a story that comes out that you're like, boom? I mean, we're cousins, so there's some linkage there, very, very distant linkage, but a theme nonetheless. And we'll wrap it up with this question in our jumbo package of the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis Variety Hour.
So you mean the connection? Like, what's my John the Baptist story?
Any John the Baptist story. Like, what do you love? Like, we did mention, this is going to sound terrible, and we'll probably get emails. That's larry.davenport@cyc.com. But, like, if you're going to have a Stone Cold Steve Austin of the New Testament, right? It's, if you're going to, let's just do this, and maybe it'll keep people from sending me emails. If you're going to have a pro wrestler of the New Testament, it's going to be John the Baptist, right? So, he even cuts a promo on Herodias, right? So,
true.
Kind of loses his head over
I'm still trying I'm trying to get the question, though. Maybe I'm that shallow for some reason.
Your John the Baptist story. What's your favorite John the Baptist story?
In the Bible. In the Bible.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
I
I just didn't know if you were, like, connecting him to our lives somehow. I was like,
no, just favorite John the Baptist story.
Favorite John the Baptist story.
And I'm gonna take when, and they may disagree and go, that ain't a John the Baptist story, but it is. Okay. When Mary visits Elizabeth and he leaps in Elizabeth's womb and this Holy Spirit celebration thing. And I've heard, I don't know how accurate this is, but I've heard that it's a similar word, similar location to where David was when the Ark of the Covenant came back.
And he was leaping.
And so it's like a mirror there. And like John the Baptist is David seeing the Ark of the Covenant come home, like the presence of God. And so if that's true, I want to say I heard it at Heritage from one of their professors, and I generally think that's probably true. That's an awesome story. Yeah.
That's a really cool story. I generally just like the fact that he lived out in the wilderness.
Yes. I thought that connection would be nice.
I mean, that one, and the connection with Elijah, Elijah being in the wilderness, being fed by the ravens, kind of a wild man out there. Here's John the Baptist, in the wilderness, wild man. But I think to say, if I was just something John said or a story that I thought was really cool, it would probably be the fact that he, even as wild, as untamed as he seemed to be, the story in John 1 where he just simply says, "Behold the Lamb of God."
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy who takes away the sins of the world. That John going, you could just see people's minds, they're all trying to follow him. And I guess it kind of goes along with it, even though it happens or said later. But I love his phrase, I must decrease so that he can increase. And the fact that John was not about himself at all. It was all about Jesus. And I think that's just a huge thing. I'm here to prepare the way. This is what I came to do. And just, it's done. What I came to do is done. And I don't know if you watched The Chosen, but I've been watching the new season, and it starts heavy with John. Have you watched it? You watched the new season?
I'm caught up. So yeah.
Well, I'm not caught up yet, but I watched that first episode back, and it was all about John. And man, it was a hitter, and just that. This is what I came to do, man. I didn't come to do anything else but to prepare the way for you, and so that's just a cool thing.
So Ben, what night are you scheduled yet for speaking at Maywood?
I believe I am Wednesday night.
Wednesday night, sweet.
Yeah,
so you'll have
Wednesday. The invitation.
You should have all the senior campers, right? Is that how that works? They split.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then
I think
they're just going to they're going to keep the schedule, right? Ben and then Travis. So I think
So are you Thursday or are you Friday?
Thursday night. I think I'm Thursday. So
sweet.
If you're out there listening to this,
Titus camp, I think.
I'm sorry.
I think I'm Thursday at Titus camp though.
See, we'll get backwards then, because I'll be at on Wednesday night, and then you'll be there Thursday. So Travis and Ben. But nonetheless, if you're listening to this, say a prayer for us that we are the good vessels of the message of God, so that young people will be drawn closer to Him. And so, once again, if there's something, an episode subject that you'd like, hit us up at hello@benandtravis.com. Still excited. We're still seeing different movements from the adventures of Ben and Travis and the Worry Coaster. Very exciting stuff from Jacob Hennigan. We didn't get a chance to talk about that, but be on the lookout for that as well. Ben, as I mentioned, it's been the jumbo package, man. We almost went an entire hour talking about some really serious things, some nonsense mixed in there. I think maybe we hit a good mix, maybe not. If not, we apologize. Come check us out next week. It may be completely different, but I'm sure we'll have plenty of interviews at camp this week, and those will be coming up, serving them up. But we certainly appreciate everybody out there for listening. Be sure to check out benandtravis.com. Travis loves Haiti. And you can even go to benandtravis.com/Ben loves Haiti and get that information as well. So, Ben, hope we're rocking the free world at Maywood next week in the land of the free and the home of the brave, baby.
Ain't no bad days in the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.